All right. All right. Thanks, Juicy J. Welcome back to the show that never ends. Larry Coyote here, checking in. It's been a couple weeks, hasn't it? Yeah. Uh, so I think the last time we spoke, we did kind of a catch up on where boxing is, what was coming up. I gave you guys some good referrals on where what you should watch, Areola, Cognos, things like that. And hold on. No. Sorry, this is going to be kind of a research show, so I'm going to be trying to be everywhere here. Forgive the delay initially, but these YouTube cameras can be a little unforgiving. If right off the bat, I noticed my hair was fucked up. So luckily, I keep a spray bottle holstered with a comb in the back pocket, just in case. Okay, let's see. So where do we start? The title was, bear with me, El Chapo's son shoots up the place. Yes, indeed. If you are not up to speed on what occurred 2-3 weeks ago, I didn't want to rush to social media and bombard it. I knew everybody was going to be touching on it. I wanted to sort of let the developments kind of roll out, distill that into some tangible information, and then kind of present it in a way that has an analysis behind it, because I feel like that is probably better serving to the viewing public, in my opinion. Everybody can come up with the bam, here's the gossip, here's what occurred, speculate all over the place. But honestly, I let me take a couple steps back, because we're going to start there no matter what. El Chapo's son, the short version of it, if you don't know who El Chapo is, he's probably the 21st century's Al Capone, if you want to say that. I don't say this proudly, but he's Mexican. Billionaire, was on top of the drug game probably for the last 15, 20 years, captured twice, escaped twice from high security prisons in Mexico, finally captured a third time, and what was it? Brought to the United States to face trial. I think about a year ago, he was found guilty of too many crimes to name, sentenced to multiple life sentences, and is now serving his sentences. He's actually tried in Manhattan, so if that matters. So now he's serving prison time here in the United States in a high security prison with no chance of actually ever escaping. His son, who to me was not as who was little known, I didn't know that he had actually taken the reins of the drug empire. But from the looks of it, it looks like he's actually calling shots and running the show in the state of Sinaloa, which is where the Chapo cartel is based out of. They call it the Sinaloa cartel. I should correct myself. Captured by Mexican military police a couple weeks ago. Everything seemed fine. I think they took his mugshot, brought him in, held him in a detention center, possibly a jail or prison. But within 24 hours, maybe less, the Sinaloa cartel was able to mount an offensive to shoot up the place and get his freedom. So what ensued was a multiple hours long firefight. I believe about 15 people were dead. They had heavy cannons loaded on the back of pickup trucks. They look like anti-aircraft guns to me. I don't know enough about guns, so if anybody wants to get creative and let me know in the comment section, please do so. But the story stands that it was pretty hardcore. Grenade launchers, RPGs, heavy machine guns, pretty much everything you can name that would rival what a Mexican military would probably have on hand. I think what happened was there was a misstep on the part of the military, and they held him for a couple of hours at a location that was known. After a while, the Sinaloa cartel coalesced around that location and began to shoot it up. The military, which I believe was outgunned, not necessarily outgunned, more so outnumbered and surrounded. I saw some video of this. It just came out 2 days ago that they had military personnel handing Chapo's son a cell phone, telling, basically telling him, call off your dogs. So, so this guy's pretty young. I think he might be in his 20s, and he was doing the whole. I don't want to, he was on his phone. I don't want any trouble. I just don't want any trouble. And the military was like, hey, you need to tell these guys, fall back, fall back. And so he was just like, I don't want any trouble. I don't want. But he wasn't telling them, hey, stop what you're doing. He was saying, I don't want any trouble, and he just kept repeating himself. But over the course of the phone call, the military seemed to be getting really anxious. Who can blame them when bullets are flying your way? And they were almost to the point where I don't want to talk reckless, but it looked like they were begging Chapo's son to tell his, let's call them foot soldiers, to basically pack it up and go home. Now, if you were Chapo's son, how motivated would you be really to be telling these guys, hey, fall back, go home? So he just kind of kept repeating, I don't want any trouble, not necessarily saying explicitly, you guys need to fucking back up and leave because whatever. Well, you know what happens with good guys versus bad guys. If it was two bad guys fighting, the easy solution would have been to put a bullet in Chapo's son's head and be done with it and say, hey, he's dead. You're next. If you value your life, you'll turn around and leave. But because they're military and they have to sort of abide by a different code, you can't just arbitrarily execute anyone. So due to this and many threats from the cartel that were surrounding the building, who were promising to locate family members of the military and police, take them hostage, kill them, who wants to be in that situation? The military opted to actually kill them and innocent civilians surrounding the area. The military opted to just release the Chapo's son, which they did, and the firefight ended. The violence subsided. Normalcy, if I can use that word, returned to Sinaloa immediately after, which I guess is a good thing, but more importantly, what ensued after, I mean, let's talk about the fallout. And this is why I didn't want to rush to the podcast and start reporting something, because really I wanted to hear from a lot of people. Who arrested him? Was it military? Was it police? Was it state police? Was it federal police? Looks like it was a military. Who agreed to release him? What were the terms in which he was released? Why? What does and more importantly, what does the president have to say? If you know AMLO, Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador, the new president of, not new, I think he's been to 2-3 years now, president of Mexico, ran on a campaign to stamp out corruption, narco trafficking, mafia. He's been harping on that for over he's been running for president, I think 3 election cycles, which might represent close to 15 to 18 years. So he finally won after throwing everybody on the bus, saying they couldn't control Mexico and he would bring peace and cut down corruption, the mafia, narco trafficking. His time to shine was now. So I wanted to hear from him and how he was going to explain this away. The next day, he held a press conference, essentially saying that the life of a civilian is worth more than the life of a low-life criminal gang. So the military opted to preserve civilian life. I guess that's not a bad reason. But, I mean, the story is the bad guys got away. The bad guys won. Honestly, if you ask me, it gives the impression that Mexico is a narco trafficking state, which is kind of something that we suspected and is probably now official. The money is probably is in the billions. It's trickled to every level of society, and it's at the point where it's kind of difficult to control, especially when you're talking about uh, political life. As we all know, here, there, everywhere, abroad, politicians are probably the most cowardice humans on the planet. So they're there for survival. Most of them are there for themselves. I don't want to say that to everybody, but they value re-election over everything else. So for the most part, I wanted to hear from the president and see how he explained this clusterfuck away. And unfortunately, he hasn't been able to do so very adeptly. It looks bad. It's a black eye to the country of Mexico, and it's going to be something that's going to be difficult to explain away in the coming years and months, unless El Chapo's son is promptly captured again and extradited to the United States. So, for me, it was kind of eye opening to see that. It was a little. I chuckled a little bit because I know the president talks a big game. President of Mexico, that is. Um, and unfortunately, when push came to shove and it was time to deliver, he he took it in the chin. Now, the ensuing fallout for him that has been that the military being outgunned, outnumbered. Sinaloa is not really under government control or hasn't been. At least there's some sort of uneasy truce where, with a wink and a nod, people are allowed to live. Uh, at least criminals are allowed to live in a manner that they see fit, and that's pretty much what you can say about that. So it's a little odd to me, especially with the new president and how he had promised to stamp out crime, corruption, narco trafficking. He's literally not only has he not done it, he's actually gotten worse. And so this is a huge step backwards for the country as a whole. And it might be one of the, I would call it the beginning of the end as far as the presidency's image goes with respect to this president. Everything he had promised, everything he had assured people, the reason people voted for him was that he was a modest man, humble. Um, those things might be true, but unfortunately, he doesn't have control of the country. And all this does is actually serve to further erode his power and probably further the amount of disrespect that people are going to have towards presidential authority. So it's a big enough deal where I thought it was worth talking about. Chapo's son seems to be firmly in charge of the Sinaloa cartel and will be so for the foreseeable future. So it's something that we have to take a look at. Bear with me. I'm going to take another drink. So, with that said, hold on. Um, let's see. I guess that's it. I mean, I really don't know what else to say except the only thing I can possibly see happening is that he gets captured and promptly extradited. But here we go. The president of Mexico said, "We are willing to arrest him again if an arrest warrant is presented." I don't know what that means. Does this mean he was not arrested with an arrest warrant initially? Does this mean that the arrest warrant that was initially issued is now rescinded? Um, Yesterday or 2 days ago, it actually was released that initially the president had taken responsibility for calling or at least giving the order to have him arrested. Several weeks later, it turns out it was actually a crime fighting unit within the Mexican military, high ranking colonel, general, sergeant, whatever you want to call him. I don't know what he is, but a high ranking man within the Mexican military. His name's been released, so hopefully nothing happens to his family. And I won't repeat it here because I don't want to look it up, and it doesn't matter that much unless if you guys want to look it up, you're free to do so. But a high-ranking military official who is not corrupt, probably has love for his country, and was tasked with trying to stamp out narco trafficking, actually issued the call to have him arrested um, without the presidential permission. So the president now looks bad because it's like, oh, you know what's happening under your nose without you finding out about it, and um, why was why does he have to keep it a secret to you? Why does it have to be a secret? Why can't he tell you he's going to arrest somebody? Is it because you're going to tip off Chapo's son? Because that's actually what Chapo's associates had alleged during the trial, was that they had given suitcases to both Felipe Calderon and especially Enrique Peña Nieto to cancel out, rescind arrest warrants, orders of arrest, basically call off military searches for El Chapo during their tenure. So it gives the impression that the military is trying to do good, and they can't trust the president to tell him when they're going to arrest high-ranking mob boss, because the president is going to probably tip him off and say, hey, my military's looking for you. You should probably move. Difficult times to live in. If you're in Mexico, it's difficult to explain this away. Honestly, it's a bad look all around. I think the only winners here was crime. So, as Freddie Gibbs says, crime pays. Should I leave it at that? Yeah, I think I will. Next on the docket, Jeffrey Epstein, as many of you know, I think he killed himself about 1 or 2 months ago. The coroner in New York ruled it a suicide. It was alleged it was a suicide. He had tried to kill himself a few months before that. For whatever reason, even after the first failed attempted suicide, he was not placed on suicide watch. Jeffrey Epstein's brother actually paid for a separate autopsy, and the autopsy is by a doctor who's on the show Autopsy for HBO, who's done over thousands of autopsies of dead people. And some of the results that he came back with were pretty alarming, actually. They point to signs that Jeffrey Epstein did not kill himself. I think one of the major ones was that there was I'm going to say this wrong, but you can look up the details. Torn bone cartilage. I don't think there's cartilage in your neck, but there was a broken bone within the neck that that's never actually broken on any hanging by suicide victim in the world. So the fact that he hung himself should not have resulted in that broken bone, because this doctor who studied hundreds of people who have hung themselves, not a single, and not only him, just anybody who's ever hung himself has never broken that bone before. Because in theory, if somebody, if Jeffrey Epstein weighed 120 pounds, there should be 100, and your head weighs 10 pounds, then there should be, 10 pounds here, 110 pounds down, 110 plus 10 equals 120. There should have been the amount of pressure on the neck was not sufficient enough to break the bone the way asphyxiation should have on a self-hanging victim. The type of pressure applied would have been direct and could only have occurred in a manner that results from wrapping your hands and crushing and squeezing really hard on a victim. So think of it this way. When somebody hangs, it kind of goes like this and up. Well, if you apply pressure, you apply, I think it's called a lateral force. So that's the result from the independent coroner. Is that I think that's a cover-up. And so it actually makes the plot thicken slightly more for Jeffrey Epstein. There's no love lost for the guy who's basically a child molester, but he had a lot of friends in high places. Donald Trump, Bill Clinton. He had a lot of friends, and part of the reason he had a lot of friends is because, I mean, if I were to simplify it, I think he stole money from the Victoria's Secret guy when he was investing for him, used that money to grow his own wealth, donated that money to multiple prestigious institutions, and then put himself in the middle of donors and nonprofit and institutions. So he was kind of a go-between, and he's one of these guys that always says, he's basically one of these guys that says, "Oh, my friend," and he would name drop. He'd name drop, "Oh, my friend Donald Trump," or, "Oh yeah, I was hanging out with Bill Clinton the other day, and he said he's really interested. Why don't I, if you'd like to meet him, he's going to be at my house next week." Or, "I was at a party with, the president." So things like that, and if you work in those, powerful inner circles, you know that relationships are kind of what makes everything go. So name dropping, especially in the East Coast part of New York, it's kind of how a lot of these wealthy people, you know, uh, move. Let's just say move in these circles. So it makes the plot thicken for Jeffrey Epstein. I think who killed him? Who is the most powerful person in the nation right now? Donald Trump. Did he kill him? Was it somebody? Was it, a high-ranking political official in New York? Either way, it would have had to be somebody with the ability to reach out and touch him in the most secure places. You have to be able to get to this guy. So honestly, I'd want to hear from the people that were actually holding him in jail. Who were the guards at the time? Is there any video evidence? I mean, a lot of this information should really be coming out. So I'll leave it at that. I think the last thing, I'm going on 20 minutes. I was going to try to do less. Hold on. Irvin's at my house. Okay. Oh, yeah. I was actually going to try to find out tomorrow. Um, Canelo Alvarez versus Sergey Kovalev, and Ryan Garcia versus the Filipino. I think his name is Duno. Did anybody see Duno put the work on that Sureño the other day? This is about 2 months ago. To but still on the podcast. Okay, where was I? Oh yeah, yeah. Did anybody see Duno put the work on that Sureño? Damn, he fucking beat his ass. Honestly, I was like, okay. Um, I'd like to see what the odds are because I wouldn't. I think Ryan Garcia. I think Ryan Garcia has a lot of talent. I do not think that he is the truth yet. And so the way Duno performed to me would seem to indicate that he actually has a real shot. So I'm going to give you the odds and kind of suggest what I think people should be betting on. So let's see where Canelo is. It's starting to get frustrated. I won so many bets here that I feel like this app is actually discriminating against me now. It kind of knows, and it gives me terrible odds, which make me suspicious. All right, hold on. Okay, Canelo Alvarez. Ooh, hold on. We got a couple. Okay. All right, so Ryan Garcia is an 800 to 1 favorite. So if you wanted to bet $80 on Ryan, you would win 10. And his opponent is Romero Duno from Dos Santos, Philippines, which is, I think he's from the same city that Manny Pacquiao's from. He's like a little Manny Pacquiao. But okay, so his odds are actually plus 500. So if you want to win $10, How do I word this? To win $10 with Ryan, you have to bet 80. That's like 8 to 1. I don't like that, and I don't like placing those kind of bets. Um, with $10, if you put it on Duno, you could win 50. So it's +5. So it's kind of like you bet $1, you get 5 on the Filipino. You bet $8 on the Mexican, you get 1. So that's a really disproportionate thing. I usually like to look for popular fighters who have a ridiculous uh, odds advantage on betting, but they don't, their chance of winning might be 50-50, but the way the betting is like they have a 99.9% chance on the betting side, which actually causes a disproportionate amount of I think what it means is he's got too many fans going for him, and the other guy who's probably as good or maybe not as good, but he only has like 1 or 2 people going for him. So in this instance, I would bet for the Filipino, just because $1 gets me 5 versus $8 gets me 1. I don't like that. And let's see. I don't think Ryan Garcia is going to knock anyone out. But what do we got here? Total rounds. When the fight end. Method of victory. No, I don't want to do that. Let's see what we got. Okay, next is Canelo. Let's see. I saw it earlier. Ooh, wow. Okay, Canelo's odds are a little better. $4 will get you $1 with Canelo. So $400 you win 100 if you go with Canelo. Sergey Kovalev is the opposite. $100 will get you $300. I don't know that I want to bet on Kovalev. I think he might have a propensity to gas out. I would bet for him to sort of give Canelo a surprise knockout. I don't know if that option is available, so it isn't. So in that instance, I would probably bet for Canelo. I'm gonna put $40 to win 10. Hopefully, I don't lose my 40. But hey, man, that's how boxing is. So now this is play betting. Hold on. I'm not actually betting real money. That's the worst wink in the world. All right, so but hey, man, like bet max. I don't know about that. So here's what I'll do. I'll put 20 on the Filipino because my 20 will get 1 to 5, 2 to 10. My 20 will get me 100 if he wins. And I'll probably bet 80 on Canelo because $80 will get me 20. So total, I'm betting man, I don't know about that. Hold on, let me see. Total, I'm betting $100. Total wins, I might get 120. I don't know, man. I'm a little concerned. Let's just say fuck it. Okay, so 20 on the Filipino, 80 on Canelo. I expect to win my 80 back from Canelo, and on the Filipino, I'm basically saying I'm willing to throw away $20. But if it's a happy surprise, then I'll actually turn that into $100 win. So let's see what happens. We'll push play. Um, okay, and I'll see if I can find some side bets or something like that. But I think that's pretty much it. I quickly wanted to touch on Bernie had a heart attack, and I mean Bernie Sanders by that. Not that I not that I'm feeling the burn or anything like that, but if you're a Bernie supporter and you know he has a heart attack, are you still voting for him? It's a serious question. I'm genuinely curious. Like, would you vote for a guy who you know has suffered a heart attack? I don't know. I would probably venture to guess that is getting kind of iffy. So I don't know that I would do that. But okay. Whoa, hold on. Whoa, shit. One Grisman. Fuck Bernie. Damn, dog. Send it in the form of a super chat. I can't just be over there reading. Um, Say it with your chest out. What else are you gonna say? Um, Fuck Bernie. All right. Uh, I'm guessing you're going for Elizabeth Warren, maybe. All right. So my homie One Grisman, I think he's mad that Bernie had that heart attack. He was probably on that feeling the burn before he had the heart attack. Now he's upset. Should have known, bro. That fucking crazy hair would have told you that he was gonna get a heart attack. He looks like his arteries might be clogged, and he looks frail. So, no burn, no burn. All right, cool. All right, I think he's not on the burn, but I think he might be on the Trump train. All right, so hey, who am I to judge? Do whatever you want. So, all right, I think that's pretty much it. I was gonna start ranting about TV Azteca is actually having a I don't even think these motherfuckers deserve me to promote them, but they're one of the lamest channels out there, and they're supposedly trying to do a mythological recreation of when the Spanish arrived to Mexican shores and knocked out the Aztec Empire. But they fucked it up because one of the things about the Aztec Emperor was that he was in his 30s. I think he was 31 or 32. And a lot of people know that. I think, anybody who studied it, he's described as 32, over 6 foot tall, taller than the actual Spanish Cortez. But unfortunately, the guy they cast is like a 60-year-old, 68-year-old geriatric fucking king. Short. That upsets me. One. I feel like people in TV Azteca just don't fucking know what the fuck they're doing. The whole network is a joke. Why would you do that when you know the guy was prime aged 30-year-old? You fucking get this guy that's older than Bernie Sanders and you put a crown on him and say that that's the king. That's not him. Two, I hope at least that they're objective in the way they describe the Aztec Empire overthrow, because you have to take into account smallpox and the way the contagion rate of a smallpox goes from this and then is like goes from 0 to 90% in a matter of months, especially in a densely populated area. So you lose, let's just say, half, including the immediate successor who actually kicked them out of the capital initially. One, I think it's an important point to make. And then two, I hope they take into account the 100,000 troops that the Aztec rival kingdom of Tlaxcala lent them for the effort, because they only had 500 guys. So if the Confederation of Tlaxcala hadn't fucking lent them 100,000, by the time it was all, I think it was 180 towards the end, and then the Aztecs having their smallpox outbreak, I mean, it was a total disproportionate use of force. No, and I'm not even going to get into the horses, the gunpowder, the steel, because I'll be here all day basically. But anyway, I don't know that I want to watch this drama show just because of the way that they fucked up the casting. Like, if you fucked that up right from the jump, then how critically did you think about this? And they have the nerve to say that this is going to be on the same scale as Game of Thrones. Are you fucking kidding me, bro? God damn. I got depressed. All right, guys. Well, thank you for tuning into the Larry Coyote Show. Money on Duno, money on Canelo. I think Ryan Garcia will probably win a decision. I'm hoping he gets knocked out, but what do I know? So check in with me later, and I'm going to try to do a few more shows, at least 2 a week. I know I was lagging. Part of it was just because I've been really busy, so we'll go from there. I think that's Paul. I don't think that's yeah, that's Paul, right? Salute, homie. Talk to you later.